Hi there, this is David and welcome to the Top 10 Worst RPG Dungeons, 3DS Edition. The 3DS was a JRPG lover's dream. There were just so many good games, but we can't have the good without the bad too. I mean, with good games comes god-awful tedious dungeons. And man, does the 3DS have those in spades. So come and fly the rage-inducing skies with me as we recount those dreaded destinations. Number 10. 7th Dragon, code VFD, Preloma Scholar City. I normally like when games split a large party up, like in Final Fantasy VI. I mean, that was great. But here, not so much. The party splits into 3 just for the sake of splitting. Each group will move down their own separate path and fight their own separate bosses. It's really a letdown, but that's not the main drag here. It's all the mobs who specialize in status ailments, culminating with a mini-boss who loves nothing better than to cast instant death spells on your party. And if you're not prepared for this, and most first-timers wouldn't be, get ready to reload, go back to town, by the only protection available, which really only offers a paltry 50% protection rate against instant death, then hope that you can beat the guy before he kills you. It's save scumming at its worst. Number 9. Bravely Default Flying Fairy, the entire second half. Or, as I like to call it, Groundhog Day, the game. If there's one surefire way to ruin a good time, it's to punish your players by making them do the same things over and over and over again. In order to get to the true ending, you have to redo all 4 of the crystal dungeons and beat their bosses 4 whole times. I can understand the developers forcing you to go through them maybe 1 extra time for storyline purposes, but 4? What the hell? It feels like a total slap in the face, and it completely ruined the game for me. I beat the game once, but I'll be damned if I'm ever going to go through that again. At least we got the sequel version of the game where you can turn off random encounters. Imagine going through all that on the vanilla version that the Japanese players originally got. Number 8. Mario & Luigi Dream Team, Neo Bowser's Castle. Once you come in, you can never leave! Or at least it does feel that way, this place is just so frickin' long. And to make matters worse, Kamek is there bothering you the entire time by warping you all over the place, so you're constantly going in and out of the dream world to solve the various puzzles put in front of you, which normally is fine. I mean, this is the final dungeon after all, but you're seriously just doing it over and over and over again. Maybe I'm alone in this, or maybe I'm just old and crotchety, but whenever it comes time for a game to end, just end. Don't drag it out for forever and a day. I'd rather have the extremely long dungeon put towards the beginning of the game when I'm still psyched to play it, not at the end when I just want the drudgery to be over. Number 7. Ever Oasis. All of the dungeons? I liked Ever Oasis, too bad it really did fly under the radar though. And while there are many positives to speak about, that's not why I'm here. I'm here for these damn dungeons with their puzzles that only one person can solve. Basically, if you don't have a specific ability, you have to leave the dungeon, recruit the character, and then go and return to where you were just to complete the room. This needs to die in a fire, and it happens all the time. You can't just go straight through a dungeon, there's a constant back and forth between progressing through the massive caves, returning to the oasis to get the ability needed, then going back into the dungeon. Why couldn't they have just made it where you could switch your party members out in the menu? I mean, that alone would have made this game 100 times better. Number 6. Crimson Shroud, Gersey Waterway. Screw getting that damn key. Anyone who's ever played Crimson Shroud knows exactly what I'm talking about. Everybody else is probably just scratching their heads, wondering what the deal is. Well, I'm here to tell you that this is probably the most egregious case of game padding that I've ever come across. No one tells you that you need the key to proceed with the game, and worse, no one tells you how to get it, and worse than that, it's a rare drop off of a rare spawn. You have to fight skeletons over and over and over again, hoping that a mage will appear in that fight, and then hope that that mage drops the key. What the hell? Who came up with this nonsense? Number 5. Paper Mario Sticker Star, All the Cryptic Puzzles. I've previously said that I really don't like the Paper Mario series, and this game is easily the worst of the bunch, especially with its convoluted, unintuitive puzzles. Not to mention that many times progress-related items are hidden behind secret doors or locked behind seemingly optional minigames. And how many times does the game send you on a treasure hunt for a specific item without giving you any indication whatsoever as to where the item could be? By the time that I got around to the second world, all the fun and joy of discovery was just sucked out of me. I was so sick of backtracking all over the map looking for one specific item that I missed. And it's not that I wasn't being careful, it's that getting the item can just be so convoluted and unintuitive. It's like you have to go to a specific random platform or hammering a specific nondescript spot. It's ridiculous. Number 4. Fire Emblem Echoes, Shadows of Valentia, Duma Tower. This place is pretty intense, and I hope that you have an entire afternoon set aside for completing it, because the designers suddenly decided to become extra stingy with the save points, and it's always so much fun to climb up a 5-story tower with forced encounters at every stairwell. Of course, if this were a standard RPG, it wouldn't be so bad, but as a strategy game where the battles can take upwards of an hour with permadeath depending on your difficulty level, it's an effort in frustration to say the least. Oh, and if you leave the tower to save, they all respawn. It's just one tedious, long encounter after the next in here, coupled with a huge difficulty spike. Yeah, that temple area that Alm has to explore next is larger, but there are breaks. And the Thebes Labyrinth sucks too, but as usual, I leave post-game dungeons out of these lists. Number 3. Rune Factory 4, Rune Prana. Oh joy! We get to craft, and craft, and craft for hours. Because if you don't, you'll be absolutely slaughtered by the bosses in the Rune Prana. You'd better create all the best elemental weapons and armor, as well as status-resisting brooches, because this place does not play. It's easily the longest dungeon of the game, consisting of 7 different areas littered with traps, puzzles, and switches. And I hope that you have tons of free time to devote to clearing this monstrosity. If that wasn't bad enough, it also acts as a super boss gauntlet where all of them are pretty ridiculous, and without a sound strategy or endless grinding, you're going to get well acquainted with the game over screen. Also, if you think that companions are going to help you out, they'll just be dead the entire time. Number 2. Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth, Inaba Pride Exhibit. This place is beyond obnoxious because you have to solve a long, drawn-out puzzle on every single floor. Navigating first-person dungeons is bad enough, but couple that with these puzzles and you have a recipe for disaster. The exhibit is a huge maze filled with traps, secret passages, puzzles, and torches. Remember that tree dungeon in Beyond the Beyond where you had to carry the water to the leaves, but if you took one extra steps that you would drop the water? It's the same thing here, except that you're going through the most obnoxious place in existence. Basically, there's one holy flame and a bunch of unlit bonfires, and you have to carry the torch to light the bonfires in a very particular order without going over the allotted number of steps and having your torch go out. It is frustrating with all the random battles and foes wandering around too. And finally, number 1, Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, Yahweh's Universe. Teleports, traps, locked doors, oh my! You name it, this hellacious place has it. Don't believe me? Look at this map. Just look at it. This place has got to be one of the worst final dungeons of all time. I mean, what were they thinking? I know that these games are supposed to be difficult, but this is just downright infuriating. It's not fun at all getting lost constantly, being trapped behind doors that you can't open because your stats aren't high enough, getting sent back to the start, not knowing where you are, and having a bad case of vertigo while you're at it. I get that they want to boast of a long playtime, but good lord, this is not how you do that. Sometimes game developers should take a page out of Seinfeld's book and end on a high note, not drag it out and beat the horse dead. Well, that's it for the worst 3DS dungeons. Do you agree or disagree? Let me know in the comments, and you may think that I'm done with this series, but I'm not. I have yet to include any horrible post-game dungeons, so do look forward to that episode, and have a good day.